Welcome to All in Yellow,
the official Norwich City podcast.
Buendia from the right-hand side delivers McLean's header! And it's in! Norwich City have taken the lead against the champions!
Today we have our second first-team player on the show. It's Scotland international and City midfielder Kenny McLean.
Kenny, an absolute pleasure to have you with us on All in Yellow today. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Thank you. Now, I want to start with taking you back to life before Norwich. You started out at Rangers Academy, didn't you? Just tell us about that.
Yeah, I did. Obviously, originally from Glasgow, so you know when it's Glasgow and when it's football, it's Rangers or Celtic. And I was fortunate enough to be in the academy, the one of them I supported. So it was good for me at the time growing up. Obviously, it was where you wanted to be, and unfortunately at the time it just didn't go as planned. It was obviously a good couple of years there, but you know when you get to that age that you're wanting to progress, and things didn't work out for me. I was about 4 stone soaking wet, and I was quite small as well, so it seemed to be an issue when I was there at Rangers. And I think we just came to the conclusion that we'd move on from there, but it was good at the time. Obviously being in at Murray Park, the training ground, the facilities and that were excellent, but I was getting to that age where I had to make a decision, and I had to go with my head over my heart.
Who were some of the players, Kenny, that you were rubbing shoulders with at Rangers while you were there?
Well, when I was younger, there's not, in terms of first team players.
Yeah, potentially, or players that went on to make it in the first team.
So to be honest, there wasn't too many in my age group that went on to play for the first team. That was when I was before I was 14, roughly 14. So it was way before. Obviously I started playing, but none of the players really played. But obviously the first team boys back then were like big names like Barry Ferguson's and that. That's the kind of a player that I looked up to. And obviously supporting Rangers, I was desperate to go on and play there, but it didn't materialise like that. Unfortunately at the time, but in the end it all worked out for me.
Did you have a plan B then? You say that you kind of knew it wasn't going to materialise for you at Rangers. What was your other plan?
Well, you start to get that feeling that things aren't working out for you, and at that age, and you don't feel, maybe not wanted, I think that's a bit strong, but you don't feel as part of the plans as other players at the time, and you just want to play football. And for me, as I say, I hadn't grown, hadn't filled out yet, and I was very slight, and I always believed in my ability, but that held me back a little bit when I was younger. So at the time, I moved on. I think it was about February time, where you get to that age where you need to start looking at going full time. I was going to leave school. I just turned, I think I was 15. I was younger in school, so I was about 15, and I was looking to go full time. And I realised Rangers wasn't really an option, so it was about February time, and I had to give myself a couple of months to go and try and earn a contract somewhere else. And that's when I spoke to St Mirren at the time. Davy Longwell was my coach there, and after one session, he had said that there was going to be a contract there for me. So, I was very fortunate in that sense that, they put a bit of faith in me.
Was there ever a point where you were worried that it wouldn't progress into first team football? And you mentioned being at school there. What was Kenny McLean like at school? Was there ever another career path that you could have taken?
I mean, there always is the doubts that you might not go on to be successful in football. It's you need to work very hard, and the chances of doing it at that age, everybody wants to do it, so not everybody can be there. And when you get that setback of Rangers didn't want me really, so it was I did have the doubts in my mind, and it was it was tough, but I quickly moved on, and when I did and I got that opportunity pretty soon, then the doubts kind of went away, and I was back to focusing on playing football again and enjoying it. And at the time, I was leaving school, and I think for all parties, it was the best thing for me. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't an ideal student, I don't think. And at that time, I think everybody knew that I was wanting to leave school, and everybody says they want to go and try and be a footballer, and I was saying that's all I was saying, and there wasn't really any other option for me. I wasn't stand out at anything in school. I would have been going into some sort of trade, I'm sure, if I didn't make it. And that's when I went to St Mirren, I actually ended up, when I was youth team at St Mirren doing my scholar, they put you in college 1 day a week on the Wednesday, which is pretty good, to be fair. And I was doing like construction kind of stuff, and I was terrible. I quickly knew I had to knuckle down at the football and make it there.
And you did, and your chance for regular football came with St Mirren. But you also had a loan spell. Was it Arbroath? How did that come about?
Yeah, that was quite a hard time, actually. It was, at the time, the first team manager was Gus McPherson, the assistant manager was Andy Millen, and Andy was mates with the Arbroath manager. So that's how that kind of came about. They felt it was right for me to go and, play football down the leagues, and I was starting to grow a bit, but I still hadn't really matured as a player of that, and that was where I went and got a real shot, because that was tough. I mean, I was training twice a week at night. I was travelling to train, and then we played. It's probably about 2 hours from Glasgow, about an hour and a half from Glasgow, where we played. And I used to go on a Saturday, and it was nobody in England will know, but in Scotland everybody knows Arbroath Stadium, Gayfield. It's right on the water, and on a Saturday come 3 o'clock, the corner flags are horizontal with the wind, and it was a bit of a reality check. And after a couple of games, I was thinking to myself, what's happening here? I think, I don't know, I was 17, maybe 17, 18, grown men kicking me up and down the pitch. And, at the time I thought, what am I doing? But looking back, it definitely did help me. It brought me on, and that's why St Mirren done it at the time.
So that guy who was 4 stone soaking wet suddenly had to hit the gym, put on a bit so he could mix it with the big boys.
Yeah, very quickly. And just before I went on loan, actually, I got surgery on my knee, and I was out for 6 months, which gave me that opportunity to. That's when I realised I really had to get in the gym and stuff. And it sounds bad, but that injury helped me so much, because I was in the gym constantly. And I'd been at St Mirren for about a year then, and I kind of realised that people higher up. I was playing under 19s, but people higher up had faith in me, and they wanted me to progress. So they were telling me what I had to do, and I was still pretty slight. And that injury really helped me fill out and get myself ready. Well, as ready as I could have been to go on loan to a team like that.
Does having those 6 months out as well, sidelined through injury, does it kind of reinforce your love for football? I mean, I'm sure you already had it, but does it kind of put things into perspective and how much you just want to be back out playing?
100%, and especially when it's long term, even when it's short term. I mean, I've just had an injury for a couple of weeks there, and it's like you take things for granted, like just going out and training and being with the lads and stuff. When you're sitting in the treatment room and you're watching the boys go and training, you're sitting at 3 o'clock on a Saturday watching the boys running out of the tunnel. It's tough. It is tough, and I just tried to use that time as well as I could to make me better and to progress me. And I honestly think it did. Looking back now, I think that gave me a decent enough platform to go on.
Yeah, and then you obviously came back to St Mirren. Am I right in thinking that Arbroath were relegated? You said there were some tricky times. Yeah,
so that's what probably made me really stand up and realise where I was at the time and appreciate it more, because these guys were coming. The guys that I was playing with were coming from their work, straight from work to training, and I was turning up, and it was tough for them. It was tough, and we got relegated that year. And basically, selfishly, I was just thinking, I'm just going to go back to St Mirren. That's me. My time's done here. But then in the changing room after that last game, you're looking about and there's grown men, like properly hurt. Of course, I was hurt, but not the way this was affecting their livelihood, and it was, it made me look at it and say, like, I need to go and do as well as I can. I need to give everything to be as successful as possible, because no disrespect, but I didn't want to be there at that time, and it was tough. As I say, these guys coming straight from work to go to training, giving up the Saturdays. Of course, everybody wants to do it, but and they weren't earning a lot of money, and it was tough. They were doing it to help their income and to pay bills, and that's the way it was. And when we got relegated, obviously affected everybody. And I was there just thinking I'm going back to St Mirren and I'm finished here, which was pretty selfish, but it definitely helped me in the sense of you do need to appreciate everything you've got.
So there's a little bit of adversity there already in your early career with the injury, and then experiencing that situation that probably must then spur you on to think, okay, I need to get to a certain level here just for security, first of all, but then to guarantee a future career in football.
Yeah, of course. As I say, it's the things you need to appreciate. I was going to training, every morning, doing what I loved, and these guys were coming straight from 12-hour shifts to then go and train for 2 hours and go home to their families at 10 o'clock at night, having left the house at, I don't know what, 7, 8 in the morning. And as I say, like, no disrespect, but that's not what I wanted to do. And I saw the struggle for these guys, some not making training, some coming absolutely shattered, and it was tough for them. And it opened my eyes to what I wanted to achieve, and how hard I had to work to go there.
It must have been a big contrast then when you did come back to St Mirren. You've gone from playing with players that, as you say, it's a lot of them, it's the second job, to some of the best players in Scotland that you're playing with and against. How did you kind of deal with that? Because it must have been quite weird, the shift.
I got lucky in that sense as well, where when I was on loan at Arbroath, I was still training at St Mirren, and I'd kind of promoted myself into training with the first team most days. So that was like a good transitional period for me, where when I came back, I was ready to kind of a step in and and fight for my place. Really, I was still young, and we had a decent enough team then, but I was confident in my own ability, and I felt like I could have went back and I'm giving back off the back of an average loan spell and getting relegated, of course, but I always felt like I could go and do a decent enough job for St Mirren, and I think the manager and that had the belief in me at the time. It was a bit of a jump from youth team football to first team football, as it still is, but back then it was tough. The chances were very limited. But for me it was excellent, and youth team was hard. The way we were brought up and stuff. I think it made you ready and appreciate going into the first team change room, because there was some tough times.
You had your time at St Mirren, and then Aberdeen came along. How did that all come about?
I was playing at St Mirren for a few years actually, and I loved it there. Obviously, I got my opportunity there, and I really enjoyed it. But that season we were kind of around about the bottom of the table again. I think we had 2 managers had the sack that year. A player stepped in, he was the manager. So it was tough times at the club. And I kind of felt like I had to move on to try and progress myself. Again, my time at the club was excellent, and I really enjoyed it. But then you kind of know as a player, like you need something different and something new. And we were losing most weeks, and it was tough. And that was the January came, and we were sitting at the bottom of the table, and I didn't want to just walk away from St Mirren and leave them in that position, but I think it was just right for me at the time. And Aberdeen came, the chance came to go to Aberdeen, and I'd done another couple of offers as well down south, but I just felt like when I met the Aberdeen manager that it would be really good for me. A couple of hours up the road, and that actually ended up happening on the last day of the window. And I was panicking a bit because I was really wanting to get it done, because it was a good club, and obviously the manager was wanting me up there. And I ended up getting it done the last day of the window. I'd woke up to loads of missed calls from my agent, and I was panicking, but thankfully we went and got everything done.
So then when you went up to Aberdeen, how were you welcomed by the players there? Did they know much about you? Was it a different setup to St Mirren?
I'd played against them plenty of times, so I knew a lot of their players and stuff like that. I think we played them the week before actually, so I knew them well enough. As I say, the manager was from Glasgow, where I was from, so I got on really well with him. But going in January to a club, you hear it all the time, and it takes players time to settle in. January window's tough, and I never really looked at it that way. I just felt like I'm just going to go different team, and I'll just continue playing the way I've been playing. And it didn't work like that, to be honest with you. From January to the end of the season, my form was poor. I hadn't really settled in the team. I wasn't doing well, and for whatever reason, I was affected somehow by the move and how things came about. So that was pretty tough when I went up there for the first few months. I went, and it wasn't a lot of money, but Aberdeen had paid money for the first player in quite a long time, and there was a bit of an expectation there, and I just wasn't fulfilling that expectation. I wasn't giving back, what they had put in me at the time. So that first few months was tough, but after that, when I got a good pre-season with the boys and stuff, and I got to know everybody, I kind of came back that summer and I felt pretty good.
How do you deal with that pressure? You say you had the expectation kind of on your shoulders, and with them having paid the money for you. Is there a sense of, using kind of a sports psychologist, or how do you deal with that?
I've never been into stuff like that, but I just felt at the time, looking back, maybe I should have looked into it more, but I just felt like it will come. Like I was a bit arrogant to think, my ability will come through and I'll be fine. But, it went on far too long. It was probably 4 or 5 months where I wasn't playing good enough. And, that could have been, I've saw players at clubs for less time. That could have, the manager could have just basically cut his losses and got rid of me in that summer, because when we came back this summer, we played in Scotland. We came back quite early we were in Europe at the time, so we were back like middle of June. It was really early. We only got a few week break, and when we came back in June, we played the European qualifiers, and I wasn't part of the starting 11 in the first couple of games, and the first game of the season came. And we used to play Thursday and then Sunday. The European games were Thursdays, and I wasn't playing in the European games. So the team got changed for the Sunday game, and I actually played and scored, and we won 1-0. And I think that was the making of me at Aberdeen, because after that I went on a pretty decent run. I scored a few in Europe after that as well. So I think I got my chance I was pretty lucky, to be fair, because the team did get changed, because we had such a quick turnaround from Thursday to Sunday.
You make your own luck, don't you? And you obviously took your opportunity there as well, didn't you? But what was it like playing in the Europa League?
It was good. It was tough. The first couple of rounds, you usually get teams that you've not really heard of. Scandinavian teams and teams from some mad countries. We went to Kazakhstan and played. We played away in Kazakhstan one game, but it was good. That I loved that. We used to travel all over and play some decent games. The year before I went, they played teams like Real Sociedad. When I was there, we played Limassol. So there was some pretty decent names, but we always just fell at the final hurdle before you got to the group stages. That's when the better teams came in, and we always kind of fell at that hurdle. But it was obviously a great experience.
I always wonder, when you get to go into all these countries, when you're in Europe or something like that, how much of a country does a footballer get to see? Or are you flown in, get on the bus, into the stadium, and you're off again?
Yeah, you don't see too much, to be honest. The furthest you'll get is a 5-minute walk the day of the game, but it was just good experiences. It was always it was always good to go. Like we played a team in Cyprus one year, and it was there was it was early rounds of the Europa League. It doesn't sound like big games, but for these countries, there was sellout crowds, and there was flares getting through on the pitch, and it was pretty mad, to be fair. And it was, as I say, it was just a good experience, and it was something you just want to be involved in. If you speak about European games, then it's quite a big deal. And I was fortunate enough to play in quite a few at Aberdeen.
So you had some great times at Aberdeen, and I think, was it 3 seasons in a row where you finished runners up to Celtic? That must have been pretty special.
Yeah, we did. Obviously in Scotland it's Rangers and Celtic, and that's all everybody really knows. But the year I went to Aberdeen, I think that was the year Rangers came back up the leagues, and they were back in the Premier League. So it was everybody just thought it was going to be a formality, like just Rangers would be back to challenging Celtic. And obviously we wanted to prove that we were still a decent team. And, for the 3 years that I was there, we finished second, and we finished ahead of Rangers, who still weren't quite, what they could have been. Everybody knew that. They weren't as good as what they had been previously and what they are now. But, we took full advantage of that. And You know, my last season there, we actually got second on the last day of the season. We beat Celtic at Parkhead to, I don't know whether they helped us with that result, but we beat Rangers to second place. So it was good. It was quite successful. You know, I was a bit gutted not to maybe add a cup or something, because we made quite a lot of cup finals and stuff like that, and we were always disappointed in them. But it was good times.
It was interesting. Alice and I had Neil Adams on the podcast a few weeks ago, who's obviously the loans manager, and he was talking about how they're so selective in where they're sending players to go out on loan. It's got to be the right club. And obviously James Maddison went out to Aberdeen, and I think you spent some time with him probably, I think, in that 2017 at the start of that year. What do you think it is about the club Aberdeen that Neil Adams and our club would have gone, yeah, that's somewhere we want to send someone to progress?
Probably the manager, to be honest with you. As it stands right now, the manager, he's brilliant. They play some good stuff. There's obviously an expectation at the club as well. You know, probably until I was there as well, I didn't realise the expectation was there. It's a big club, and you know, when we finished second, maybe the first year, teams were thinking, right, Aberdeen, they've done okay this year, they'll fall off it. But the expectation was always there from the fans. There was one year where I think we might have been top of the league February, March time. Celtic had a couple games in hand, but we were sitting top of the league at the time. And, you know, the expectation within the city, because, you know, Aberdeen's just a one club city. So, you know, everywhere you go, everybody knows who you are and stuff. So the expectation started being, you know, challenge Celtic. And that's what it was. There was an expectation to win every week there from the fans, you know, from the city, from the club. And, you know, you want to, if you go on loan, you want to have that winning mentality, really. And as I say, add that to, you know, an excellent manager, excellent coaching staff who you'll definitely learn under them. Because that's, when you go on loan, you go out to learn and progress as a player and obviously get football. And I think that's what Mather's done as well. He went up there, and I'm sure he'll tell you he enjoyed his time there.
You had some really successful years in Scotland. Was the dream, though, always to move to England? How did Norwich come about? Because obviously you then ended up going back out on loan to Aberdeen. But just tell us how that came around.
My contract was up that summer. So, for a long time I'd known that I was going to move on. And it was just about picking the right club for me, really. Because I'd had the opportunity to go before then. And looking back now, it's obviously worked out good for me. I'm at Norwich, I'm loving it here, but I kind of think I maybe should have moved the year before and came to England. Obviously I love my time at Aberdeen there, but I think I could have come down to England maybe a year or two earlier. And the opportunity was there, but just maybe not the right club. So my
had you had offers from other clubs in England at that point then? Yeah,
so there was a couple of options where I went, but I just didn't feel the club was right, and I enjoyed myself at Aberdeen. So, I didn't want to go somewhere where I felt wasn't right for me and leave somewhere that I was enjoying. But I knew that I was going to run my contract down. Well, at the time, and Aberdeen knew that as well. I'd let them know pretty soon. We'd spoken about contracts, but I says it was, my time was kind of up there, and I wanted to try something different. And they were great with that, to be honest with you. They understood my position and understood that I wanted to go and try and test myself elsewhere and down in England. So in the January, obviously you can sign a pre-contract somewhere, and that was the plan. That was a plan at the time. So I'd spoke to a few clubs and about a pre-contract, and then Norwich wanted to get it done pretty soon. So when I came down, I met everybody. Went to a game. I think it was I went to the Chelsea game, the Chelsea Cup game at home. I was down at that game. I met Stuart, met the manager, and everything. Football's always safe, but you get that feeling with a club. You really do when you meet the people about the club. And when I came here, I just, I got that feeling, and it was from then. It was the only place I wanted to be, and it was pretty plain sailing getting it done. And it wasn't until pretty late on in getting the deal done that we decided that I would go back to Aberdeen, because obviously that was we were going through quite a transitional period at Norwich. The manager obviously came in that year, and we just felt it was right for me to go and keep playing because I was doing okay. And maybe if I came down in that January, it would have took me, a couple of months to get in the team, and then I've lost a couple of months of playing. So went back out on loan, and I've done pretty well. But when I went back out on loan, but I always had one eye on coming back, and I spoke a lot to Neil and stuff, and kept in contact with him, so it was good.
Was that a weird feeling, knowing that you've got this exciting new time? You've finally chosen the club that you see suits you in England, but yet it's not quite getting started because you're not really saying farewell to your manager and teammates in Aberdeen because you're going back there. Was that slightly difficult to kind of deal with, or were you happy because it suited all parties?
Well, happy because it suited all parties. I think that was the main thing. Everybody was happy with the outcome. There was Aberdeen were happy, genuinely happy for me. When players leave clubs, sometimes the club can be a bit, sour towards a move or a bit bitter. But Aberdeen were genuinely happy for me. I was happy with the deal that I got. Obviously, Norwich wanted to sign me, so everybody seemed happy with what they had. And I think with me going back to Aberdeen, you could see that, because that was probably the best 6 months I had at Aberdeen. When I went back there, in a way, I knew I had secured the next 3 years of my career. I signed a 3-year deal at the time, so it was good for me, and I could really relax and enjoy my football, and that's what I've done that last few months.
It's interesting. Aberdeen sounds like a really nice club, but when you were back there on loan, and obviously you were a Norwich City player, were you keeping an eye on results? Had you met any of the current squad and were chatting with them? How's it going? What's it like?
Norwich and Aberdeen end up with a good relationship through it, because if we played Saturday, then Aberdeen would allow me a couple of days, and I would come down and train with the boys a couple of times, so it was a bit familiar when I came in the summer. I got to know the boys well. So when I mentioned that time when I went to Aberdeen and I went in a new changing room, and I struggled for the first few months, that was different when I came to Norwich, because I'd met all the boys, months previously. I'd settled, I knew everybody, I knew what went on at the club, so I think that really helped me. In a sense, when I was coming down, I think I came down maybe 3 or 4 times between the January and the end of the season, to get some training sessions in with the manager, with the players, and obviously get to know everybody.
How much did that help your family as well? I mean, I don't know if you're married or whether you had a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, but did you kind of have time to get to know the area and for your partner to settle in and get to sort of experience a bit of Norwich? Did that really help, having that extra time?
Yeah, so that was obviously another thing with me getting the opportunity to come down. Funnily enough, there's flights from Aberdeen to Norwich most days. So we would fly down and look at places and stuff like that. So as we were ready to go and we were ready to get settled in the summer, and we had that opportunity. As I say, Aberdeen were excellent with me in terms of allowing me to go and do stuff like that. So I was doing that. I was coming down, training with the boys, getting to meet everybody, knowing what happens and about the club. I came to another couple games between then and the end of the season, and obviously I was looking for a place in a house to settle, which I got done, which there's people in Norwich like Phil Lithgow and stuff like that who are excellent at what they do, and they help you settle in and get everything sorted for you.
Norwich finally had you, and you were obviously excited to be here, but you suffered quite a nasty injury just a few weeks in, so it wasn't a great start for you. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, that was probably the toughest part of my career that I've had, to be honest with you. So I done really well in pre-season, got a good pre-season under my belt. It was I think you play two league games and then there's a cup game at the start of the season, and it was in the cup game. I actually came on in the cup game, and after about 5 minutes there was a challenge, and I kind of knew myself I'd done something, but I got through the game. I don't know whether it affected me, made it worse or whatever, but I got through the game, and then as soon as the game finished, I was in the treatment room, and I knew I'd done something pretty serious. So to come, and then after a couple games, to find yourself, out for a long time, it was tough for me. Obviously, my partner and that had just moved down as well, and I was sitting on my backside for a couple of months.
Well, if as such a difficult period as an injury like that can be for a player, how did Norwich look after you? Obviously, both your recovery physically, but also your well-being during that time. You're in a new place, and suddenly, everything grinds to a halt. How did they look after your general well-being?
Yeah, well, it's quite easy to get down in a situation like that, and to be honest with you, I was for a bit. But when you're coming in, the main thing for me at that time is we were winning on the pitch, so that lifted me up right away. We were doing really well on the pitch, and obviously I was still going to all the games. Me and my partner, that was like our thing to do. We were just going to the games and getting out and about, and the injury just seemed to drag on so much long. Initially, I had a tear in a ligament in my ankle, and I was told 10 weeks. So during the recovery, when I was getting back to fitness, I got a major setback, and I ended up getting surgery after about 10 weeks or so. So initially we were looking at 8 to 10 weeks, and then after 10 weeks I was getting surgery. So it was really tough at the time. And again, after 6 months of my Norwich career, I'm thinking I've played 2 games here. Like, what why would they kind of want to keep me? And I've done nothing here to earn my place here. And the January window was coming up, and I don't know whether they're going to bring players in my position or whether they want me to move on. But I got fit for the January, and fortunately for me, I got a couple of cup games under my belt, done pretty well, and from then on in, it was pretty good.
How much is that in the back of your head? Obviously, you're trying to focus on your return from injury, but as you say, the window is coming round. How much do you focus on the competition that you might be facing, or do you try and block that out and think, no, this is just about me and my fitness?
You do need to look after yourself, of course you do, and you need to always just have a goal that you want to get back playing as soon as possible. But it would have been quite easy for the club to go and bring in another midfielder in my position. I'd played 2 games and I'd been injured for the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? They had put faith in bringing me to the club, and I hadn't repaid that, and it took its time. But thankfully for me, I got fit. The manager was excellent with me, and everybody at the club was. So that made it better for me. I always felt wanted, and that's a big thing at a club. If you feel like you're getting pushed out the door, then it can be tough. But I always felt wanted at the club. Even when I was injured, I was obviously always with the boys and close contact with the manager. And I was still because I was still learning the way the manager wanted to play. So I would still be getting in meetings and stuff and seeing what was happening on a daily basis. So the goal was always for me to get my head down and try and get in the team as soon as possible. But it would have been quite easy for Norwich to go and just replace me, really.
When you got back into the team, when you got back to fitness, what was your brief from the manager? What did he say? Right, Kenny, we've got you fit and raring to go. Here's what I want you to bring to what was already starting to look like a promising season.
Well, at the time, it was my first game back was a cup game. It was Portsmouth in the cup. We lost 1-0 at Carrow Road, if you can remember. And the manager always makes a few changes in the cup. Through over the last couple of years, he's always done that, not to weaken the team or that, but obviously freshen things up and get minutes in players' legs. And originally my plan was, and everybody's plan, the physios and the sports science and stuff, was for me to play maybe an hour in the game and get some good work in my legs. And I think I played two reserve games before that, 45 minutes maybe. So then I played the Portsmouth game, and the plan was 60 minutes. And after, I think it was 10 minutes, Granty got sent off. And I ended up playing 90 minutes with 10 men. So I worked a bit harder than I should have, but, I felt really good. And from then on in, I was back in the manager's plans. He was happy with what I was doing. And, I just had to wait in my chance in the league.
And in the league, that chance obviously came, and you more than repaid that faith. I think it was mid-February that you came back in, and then you played every game in the title run-in to winning, promotion to the Premier League. That must have felt absolutely remarkable from where you came from to where you were by the end of the season, celebrating as the mayor of Norwich on the City Hall?
Yeah, well, again, I mentioned earlier the bit of luck that I got at Aberdeen getting in the team and stuff like that, and it was pretty similar at Norwich. I got a bit of luck again because if you remember back to that run we had a few injuries, and it seemed to be midfielders. So we had a couple of midfield injuries, and that's what actually got me my opportunity, to be honest with you. I think Mario, Moritz and Tetz were all injured. And I played, it was the Bolton away game. We played Bolton away, and not many people remember it, but I did actually miss a penalty in that game.
We weren't going to mention that, actually.
we won 4-0 and I set one up, and I done pretty well. You know, and from there on in, I just kind of grew in confidence, and you know, I started to earn my spot in the team. Although I got in through, you know, an injury, and I got a bit of luck with that, but I started to earn my spot in the team. Felt pretty comfortable, and you know, I kept improving as the rest of that season went on, and obviously, you know, the rest was history, as they say.
That must have been one of your favourite periods of your career so far, because every time we turned up at Carrow Road or went to an away game, there was sort of magic in the air during those few months. It must have been incredible to be part of as a player.
If you think back at it now, it was crazy the way things went. You know, the last minute goals, the way games were going, everything just kind of clicked into place for us. You know, we were in such a high that whole running, except one game, the Stoke away game. That's the one that sticks in my mind. The Stoke away game, we drew 2 each, and we battered them the first half, and you know, it looked like it was going to be another 3 points pretty comfortably. They came out second half and they were 2-1 up. Pookie scored late, but at the end of the game, we've got bodies lying across the pitch like we'd just been relegated. Boys were so down and disappointed. And we drew a couple in a row there. So I don't know if boys were starting to think like we're kind of a blown our chance here. But on the way back from that game, Brentford played Leeds. So that was the later kickoff. I think it was 5:30. That was a later kickoff. So we went back. We drove to the airport to fly back. Obviously Leeds were second to us at the time, and they were our main challengers. And Brentford actually beat Leeds that game, and it was like we went from half time so high, I think we'll get 3 points, lower than a snake's belly, and then that was somehow, it wasn't one of our results that kind of lifted us again. It was Brentford winning that kind of gave us like, we're still in a really good position here. And there was about 10 minutes to go, and we were all sitting in a bus outside the airport, you know, and the flight was leaving in about 20 minutes, and we had to go, and nobody would leave the bus until the final whistle went. So that was pretty good, and there was a small celebration on the bus.
I remember it. I was there, and we were on the way home, and it did feel like, this might actually go wrong. We were looking so good, and as you said, we just get down the road and we're at the first service station, and suddenly, we're almost mathematically guaranteed promotion. It was such a roller coaster of an afternoon. Yeah,
it was. That was one I always look back on, and as I say, boys lying on the ground at Stoke away, and you know, we were still sitting top of the league. And after a disappointing result, we ended up in a better position. So it was a good day, that one.
And the team spirit was incredible, wasn't it, for everyone to see that season, as it is this season? But what makes that?
To be honest, when you're winning, it just happens that, you know, we've got a great dressing room, of course we do. We've got some good characters and a real togetherness. But when you're winning, that just grows. You know, that momentum just follows on from week to week, and that's what was happening then. We were winning every week, just enjoying ourselves. You know, we were desperate for the next game to come round, and the way the games were going just made it even better. You know, the last minute goals, you know, of course you don't want it to be that nervy, but when you get the last minute goals, it's pretty special. I think it was the Sheffield Wednesday free kick, Mario's free kick in the last minute. We've got Pete the Kitman, 20 stone running down the touchline. So things like that, everybody was just pulling in the one direction. Everybody was so desperate for success. You know, and it was just great to get it done.
Yeah, and you definitely enjoyed the celebrations, didn't you? How did you end up with that hat on your head?
It was a few beers too much. I think that was the main the main thing. It was obviously we went out the night we won the league, and then bus parade was the next morning. I don't think I slept too much, and then we went to the town hall, and obviously we got called out in I think we were in 2 or 3s. We got called out, and on the way out, then the mayor was obviously with the hat on, and I don't know, it just seemed like a pretty good idea to just fire it on my head, and out I went.
I read that you said it looked appealing.
It was appealing. That big feather coming out of the top just looked pretty good. So
It looked good.
Yeah, it was fun at the time.
That was the headlining from that event. It was all over Sky Sports News. Was you ringing a bell and declaring that you were going to give us all a day off during the week or something like that? You're making up the rules.
I was. Well, the first time I saw it was watching it back, so I couldn't remember too much of it, to be honest.
And that was obviously a great season. And then the next season didn't go quite as to plan, obviously, but you had some special moments. I believe you scored the opener, didn't you, in the win over the City? What were your favourite moments of that season, the brightest spots?
Yeah, well, we were always going to be up against it coming up. Newly promoted teams always are, and we came up that season, and we always believed that we could definitely stay in the league. That was never in doubt. We knew we had a good team. We fancied ourselves to do pretty well, and I think the way we started the season, everybody really, took notice of us and says they could be decent this season. The Newcastle game at home. I think we drew with Chelsea. We might have just lost to Chelsea. And then we had the City game, and when we beat City, I think people were, then putting us out their mouths when they were speaking about relegation. It wasn't a thing they were mentioning anymore. But that was a highlight for me, obviously. The noise when my header went in to put us 1-up was incredible, and that gave us belief in that game. And then we went 2-0 up. We were like, wait a minute, we've got a really good chance here. And then I think I don't know, it's hard to say, but I don't know if we get a bit complacent, a bit carried away, but we went on a bad run after that, and we just couldn't recover. We were always playing catch up.
It was still in your grasp though when everything changed in March and the league stopped. When you came back and were playing behind closed doors, I was lucky enough to be in the stadium to watch the games, but it felt a little bit different. When you went behind, normally the stadium would erupt and all of those fans would give you a little lift and a push to get yourselves back in. It just felt a little bit different that you guys were missing that support when you probably need it most. Would you say that was fair?
Yeah, I think that is pretty fair. We struggled a lot after lockdown, and it seemed like, I don't want to say the belief had gone, but when we did go 1 down in games, it was like, how are we getting back into this game? And from our point of view, that's disappointing saying that and looking back and saying that, because we're in a position where we're playing the Premier League. We've still got a fighting chance here, and it just, we didn't put up a good enough fight at the time, and that's obviously disappointing to say. And obviously at the time, everybody was giving everything, but we're just missing that bit, and I think it was the fans.
Yeah, obviously there was a lot of pressure playing at such a high level, but did you enjoy playing in the Premier League? How did it feel?
I did. The thing is, most games throughout the season, we were always competitive. We were always in the games. We would never, I think, 1 or 2. If I think back, the Man United game at Old Trafford, where we were miles off it, they battered us, and Wolves at Molineux. That was the 2 games where I think we can say, right, we got blown away. But other than that, I think we were always in games. So it's not like, obviously the disappointment was always defeat, but you always had that belief because you were always in games. Going back to middle of that season in December, we played 8 games, and I think we were ahead in 6 of them at half time. And that was where I think our problem was. Game management and stuff like that. And maybe that does come with experience on that level, because if you're ahead at 6 games out of 8 at half time, you've got to win minimum half of them. I think we won 1. We won 1 of the games, which is, to be honest with you, it's not good enough, and you don't deserve to stay in the league if that's what your form's going to do. But it's just disappointing. And I think maybe that little bit of experience does come in then, game management and, how to see games out and get points on the board. And I think that's where we were really hot that December.
The club really got, some compliments for the way that you played, which must have been quite nice to hear as well. But obviously it didn't work out. But people talk a lot about the hangover coming down from the Premier League to the Championship. But this season, we've just not had that at all. Why do you think that's been the case? Obviously, at the time of talking right now, flying high at the top, it couldn't be going better, could it?
Yeah, especially the way we did finish last season. It was so disappointing. And it would have been easy for us to come in and say, you know what, we had a go at the Premier League and feel sorry for ourselves. But, the manager and the staff in charge, it's never going to be the case. We were right back on it. We were working, so hard. We only had a couple of weeks pre-season, obviously, but we were working so hard on the pitch, in the meeting room, trying to put things right. And when you get that taste of the Premier League, although it ended in disappointment, you just want more. And now that everybody's been there, saw what it's all about, that's our goal. Like, we shouldn't say it, and we shouldn't be saying, no, we'll go back up. But everybody in this league wants to go to the Premier League. There's no doubt about that. And we're no different. And we've put ourselves in a good position just now, but we're only halfway through the season.
Was there a point where the manager and everyone said, okay, we're drawing a line under the Premier League and that is last season, we don't talk about it anymore? Or was it a case, do you constantly look back for lessons, or is it a case of, right, that was last season, we're focused on what we're doing now?
That was last season, draw a line. That was pretty quick. We said that there's nothing we can do about that's in the past, that's gone. We don't come back to the Championship and, expect just to get back up because we've been there. We come back and we work harder than any other team in this league, which I feel we do, daily basis on Saturday. If you work harder than everybody else you're against, you give yourself a chance. And then with the quality we've got, we enhance that chance. And I think that's what we're doing. We don't let our standards drop. The standard we set from right throughout the club, the standards that are set, and Stuart coming in, he's set these standards since he's come in the door. It's not just us on the pitch. It's not just when we turn up 3 o'clock on Saturday it happens. The work that goes on behind the scenes, that standard's set, and we need to keep driving these standards and demanding from each other.
What have you noticed has changed in those demanded standards from the time you joined to now?
When I joined, maybe it's probably the wrong word, but maybe we're a bit hopeful that we would go on to do well, but now we demand it from each other. Like, we expect it, and we know it's there. We know the quality that's there. So if you drop 5% off that, the guy next to you will let you know, not in a bad way, but he'll let you know. And again, that's where the togetherness and team spirit comes together, because if you're not doing your job and somebody tells you, then it's not a bad thing. It's, we know what to expect from each other. And now that, as I say, now that we've been to the Premier League and that's what everybody wants to get back to, we know what it takes to get there, and we won't stop until we do.
It's interesting that you say it's not just the responsibility of the manager to make sure everyone's performing to a standard. That culture is that everyone self-polices amongst the squad and holds each other to account. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think you always need that in any team, and I think we've got a lot of them. That's the good thing. We've got a lot of, big characters. We've got a lot of young boys who also know what it takes, and sometimes, they need told more than others. But I mean, the mixture that we've got between that youth and experience, and the bigger characters, and the mixture that we've got, that's another thing that Stuart and the manager look at. They don't just say he's a good player, we'll buy him. He's a good player, we'll bring him in. They look at characters, they look at personality. That's a big thing in football, and we've got the recipe that can be really successful again.
The recipe, exactly. At Scotland as well, like first major tournament in 22 years, and you score the winning penalty against Israel and against Serbia. That must have been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was a pretty pinch me moment, to be honest. The way we done it made it more special. The penalties, nobody wants to have the nerve-wracking moments, but when you obviously win it and looking back on it, it's definitely more special.
We saw Ryan Christie's interview afterwards that was particularly well watched, where he had tears in his eyes. Was he the only one who had a tear in the eye that night?
I think there was a few. He's a pretty emotional little guy, Ryan, to be fair. So that was him most of the night. As soon as he'd a beer in him, he was away again. But it was a big thing for everybody. So everybody was pretty emotional, just maybe not to his extent.
Did you know you were going to be taking that 5th penalty? Had you planned that well in advance?
No, not really. The Israel, obviously leading up to the game, we knew penalties was a possibility. So before the Israel game, we worked on penalties. Well, we didn't really work. After every training session, we would take a penalty each. That's what we'd done, just to kind of get yourself ready for it. And leading up to the Israel game, I actually scored every one and looked, pretty comfortably. And when the penalties came about, obviously the manager said who fancies a penalty, and I ended up 5th through. I don't actually know how I ended up 5th, but it ended up working in my favour, and obviously I kind of got the glory as such. But we scored 5 out of 5 in the first game, and obviously David Marshall saved one, and in the second game we scored 5 as well, and then Marshy saved the winner. So it was unbelievable.
That must be something that you and Grant, that must be a real target for, hopefully, later on this year.
Yeah, well, there's obviously international games in March, so that's World Cup qualifiers. So hopefully we can go there, and if we keep performing for Norwich on a weekly basis, hopefully we give ourselves the best opportunity to be in that squad. And then for the Euros, it's obviously going to be a big occasion for everybody, and both is obviously want to be there.
So it's been 3 years since you joined Norwich. What is your overriding feelings of the club, and what does it mean to you right now?
I mean, as soon as you spend a few years at a club, it always, it really takes to you. But for me, it took not too long for Norwich to really become special for me. I've been here 3 years, and it's I can't see. I've obviously just signed a contract at the start of the season because I can't see myself playing anywhere else right now. My daughter's 1 year old. She was born here, grew up here. So we're really enjoying family life here as well, away from football, which is obviously important to be enjoying that, and it makes things obviously better on the pitch for me. So, as a club, we continue to progress under the manager, under Stuart. Not just on the pitch, but throughout the whole club. Everything's always going in the right direction, and hopefully we can just continue to do that.
Absolutely. Long may it continue. Kenny, thank you so much for joining us on All in Yellow. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, Kenny. It was great fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.